On this episode of Locked On Angels, after a huge sweep this weekend, would our Halos let us down against the Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas A's? We'll tell you. It's time to get locked on with Mike and John, and this is Locked On Angels.
You are Locked On Angels, your daily Los Angeles Angels podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. You can find us anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and SiriusXM by searching Locked On Angels. And if you'd like to get back to the Super Halo Bros for all the Super Halo content, here's some things that you can do. Leave us a rate and a review on Apple Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button. And if you're not subscribed already, hit subscribe and become a Locked On Everydayer. And whether you're watching or listening, come over to YouTube, leave a comment. It's one of the best ways to get in touch with us and be a part of the conversation.
Happy Tuesday to you, and thanks for being here for this episode of Locked On Angels, where it's your team every day. You've got the Frisch Brothers here with you, a.k.a. the Super Halo Bros. My name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
It's our fourth season here as the host of Locked On Angels, talking Angels baseball with you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, every single weekday. A lot of people love to listen to us on their way to work, and we try to, have a tight 30 minutes so that, if your commute is that long, there you go. And so we appreciate you making us a part of your day. On today's show, we're going to compare Kyren Paris' hot start to that of Matthew Lugo's start. And we're going to give you a little backstory on Shaun Anderson, the reliever that you probably didn't know we had until this past weekend when he finished up the game on Sunday against the Dodgers, striking out Shohei Ohtani to finish that sweep. But first, Mike, let's recap the game in Sacramento. West Sacramento apparently is a thing, and they were talking about that on the broadcast. The Angels take this one 4-3.
Yeah, John, they continued with good approaches. They didn't swing at junk, down and away. They looked like they were waiting for their pitches. Now, it wasn't as successful as it was this weekend, right? But their approaches weren't back to what they were doing before the Dodgers series. There is some room to improve, but I felt like their approaches were better, including Nolan Schanuel.
You see my pensive face on the video side here.
Yeah.
We're going to get into Kyren Paris versus Matthew Lugo. Mike, Matthew Lugo, 4 Ks on the night, didn't make contact.
No.
And everything to him was down and away. And I'll tell you why in our second segment as we talk about Matthew Lugo versus Kyren Paris. Mike, I'm a little concerned. 13 strikeouts, 4 of those from Matthew Lugo, no walks in this one. When it just seemed really obvious to me that JT Ginn, the starter for the A's, was going to throw that slider down and away if he was not throwing the sinking fastball at the Angels. And so it just didn't seem that they didn't catch on to that. However, he was out by after the 4th inning, I believe. And so, once you kind of get used to seeing those pitches, but it just didn't seem to me like there were adjustments, but fortunately they were able to hang on to that 4-3 victory.
Yeah. What they did is they made contact, and their contact actually found some green grass. And so that's why not having any walks last night and having more than 10 strikeouts didn't hurt them. Again, they had good approaches, not as good as they had this weekend against the Dodgers, but they didn't revert back to what they were before that Padres and Dodgers series. So we're baby steps, Johnny, baby steps. And Nolan Schanuel, I know you do. And so do I. Nolan Schanuel actually had a really good game. He started this game off top 1 with his 3rd home run of the season, 418 feet. Somebody said, don't introduce Nolan Schanuel to launch angle because that guy might go off. Now, this was the first of 2 home runs in this game. John, they had 7 in the last series, now already 2 in this one, and they've scored in the first inning in 4 straight games.
Is there a joke to be made here about Nolan Schanuel hitting well in a AAA ballpark because he skipped AAA and a lot of people want to send him back to the minor leagues? So just goes to show that, if you send Nolan back to AAA, he's going to do stuff like this, and then you're going to go, oh, bring him up, and then you're going to be just as – if you're not already a Nolan fan. Right. Because there are some people that are just not Nolan fans at all. I think he gets punched down on a lot, but it did make me laugh that he just had such a great game, 2 doubles and a home run. So everything he hit was for an extra base hit in this one.
Now, bottom 1, Soriano got into some trouble. That was the theme of the night, but with the bases loaded, he got Rooker to hit into a double play. Now, the A's did score a run, and then Langoliers had an infield single, and they scored another run. So immediately a 1-0 lead turns into a 2-1 deficit. But then top 3, Johnny, Neto leads off with a single. Schanuel back up. He doubles down to right. Again, 2 doubles on the night. This was the first of 2 doubles. Then Moncada, John, had a productive out. How about that?
I'll give you that one because that's an approach that the Angels, we haven't seen from the Angels, is just getting those productive outs. And this was a huge one. And it was essentially, what they needed to win this game, because this is what got them back into the game 2-2 at this point.
Yeah. And then Taylor Ward hits a breaking ball deep to left field for his 13th home run. Johnny, 7 home runs in the last 13 games, 3 consecutive games with a home run. And this, Jeff Fletcher tweeted this out, this has all taken place since the Angels brought up the minor league pitcher to throw some live batting practice to Taylor Ward just a couple of weeks ago. And now he's on a tear, and he gave the Angels a 2-run lead at this point. Now, Wash was asked about why Ward is so streaky, and you and I have talked about Ward on this show, and we've said, well, he's guessing. That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
And Wash said that. He goes, Taylor's a guess hitter, and then he got a little snarky and said, if you haven't figured that out, watch. It was Sam, I think, that asked the question, and they have a interesting relationship, don't they?
Yeah, well, and it's true about Ward. You can tell that he's guessing up there, and for the reason why he was struggling so much was just guessing wrong time after time after time. And I don't know, Mike, is that something that you can live with when it comes to Taylor Ward, or even if you're a major league hitter? Like, I don't quite. I mean, isn't there an element of guessing to every at bat? But at the same time, don't you have to think kind of 2 steps ahead of the pitcher and go, well, he's been throwing everybody else down in a way. He's probably going to try to do that to me too. So maybe I should just lay off this next pitch. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, he is a streaky hitter. And I guess my pushback to you, I want to throw it back to you, is do you want the Taylor Ward that we get in bunches with a lot of home runs, or do you want a Taylor Ward that maybe is a bit more consistent, but not necessarily knocking in runs and hitting home runs at key times? Because I think being a guess hitter causes him to be the bunches hitter that kind of carries this team when the offense really isn't clicking. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, there are moments where he has to carry this team, and right now he's doing that. He certainly is, especially with Trout out right now. Solaire's not doing anything at all so far this month.
Yeah,
Moncada has been a blessing, so to speak, and since he's been back. And then, of course, Zach Neto has been doing great as well. And don't discount what Nolan Schanuel has been able to do. But when it comes to Taylor Ward, him just being the power guy in this lineup, maybe this kind of goes hand in hand. He was batting cleanup again, right? And so maybe this kind of goes hand in hand with Taylor Ward being, in the 3 spot or the 4 spot, and maybe being able to guess a little bit better against hitters, or I should say against pitchers, and what they typically throw, a 3 or a 4 guy. Maybe that's kind of a key to this whole conversation as well.
Could be. Now, the reason why the Angels didn't blow this game or struggle in this game, and the reason why their approaches looked good, was because Soriano was good in moments where he got himself into some trouble. After a walk and a single and then a double steal in the bottom of the 3rd, he walks Brent Rooker with 1 out, and then he strikes out Langoliers and Kurtz to get out of the inning. Didn't allow any runs. Now, that wasn't the story in the bottom of the 5th. He did get the first 2 outs, and then Soriano gives up a double and an RBI single, but that made it just a 1-run game. And then Johnny, bottom 6, Soriano finds himself into some trouble again, right? Catcher's interference, and then a walk, and then tell us what happened.
Yeah, he got Urshela to foul out, got Butler to ground out, and so that's how he was able to finish up the 6 innings. A good little start from him. 6 innings, 6 hits, 3 earnies, 4 walks, and 4 Ks on 100 pitches. Left the game with the lead. The second straight start where Wash let him stay in there and let himself get out of the inning, which was great to see. Seems like Wash has been giving a little bit more of a leash to his starting pitching, because he knows how bad the bullpen, or how at least overworked the bullpen has been. But Mike, Soriano seems to have a start every now and then where he just doesn't have his best stuff. We saw it against the Pirates, right? Yeah. And I know that he struggled at home, and so that's kind of the narrative. But to me, this looked like another game where Soriano didn't have a feel for his pitches. You saw a lot of stuff, the 4 walks. You saw a lot of stuff out of the zone, not quite going where he wanted it to go. Now, he did clutch up in those big moments, to keep the guys from scoring with the bases loaded. But every now and then you see a start like this from from Jose Soriano, but fortunately the Angels were able to hang on for him.
Yeah, he really, I think, grew up in this game in ways that I think maybe previous games he did it, where he was able to get out of the mess that he caused. He's got to clean up the walks because that's been the biggest issue for him. But because he's a ground ball pitcher and he's leading the league in ground ball percentage, I think that benefits him when he gets into situations with runners on. Unfortunately, if you have runners at second and third with nobody out, that ground ball is not necessarily going to help you keep them off the scoreboard. But what he did last night is he got some pop outs. Yeah. And what he did last night is he got some strikeouts,
right,
or the ground ball was hit to a infielder that didn't allow runners to score. So he really did stay focused. And I like that Wash let him go through 6 innings because you're right. The bullpen has been overworked and they needed to rely on the bullpen last night. And the bullpen came through for them. Ryan Zefferjohn comes in. He was first up. He gets the job done. 1 inning, did walk 1 guy. He seems, Johnny, to lose some focus, and we're going to talk about him on tomorrow's show. But there are moments where he's throwing strikes, and then I don't know if he's and he's admitted this, so I maybe I do know, but he has said that he's like snapping the ball with his wrist instead of releasing the ball, and that causes him to throw it down and away or down in the zone, especially when he's throwing his cutter.
He's throwing a lot. He's not throwing as many four-seam fastballs either. And to me, that's a little frustrating when you consider the fact that he hits 98, he hits 100 with that four-seam fastball, but then, you know, he could easily leave a sweeper or a cutter in the middle of the plate. So sometimes he did throw some last night, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's just like, dude, just throw the gas and get out of this. You don't have to be fancy. You don't have to be tricky, but they certainly seem to be making him throw a lot less four-seam fastballs right now.
Yeah. Hector Neris followed and went 1-2-3 and had a strikeout. Nice rebound after the blister that he had against the Dodgers, right?
Couple warning track shots there, Mike, but he danced around it thanks to a good read from Joe Adell out in right field, knowing how close the wall was. And talk about a AAA guy doing well in a AAA ballpark, right? That's Joe Adell. But him and Taylor Ward were able to get those flyouts at the wall, and then of course the strikeout to finish the inning. Finally, Kenley Jansen enters, gets the save.
Speaking of warning track shots, first batter hit it as far as you can without hitting it out. That was scary, right?
Maybe that's the one I'm thinking of with Joe Adell, right? Is that
well? Hector Neris had a couple of high fly balls, but it was with Joe Adell against Kenley Jansen, and Joe Adell literally was up against the wall.
That's what it was,
and the ball falls into his glove. So the Angels made it very nerve-wracking in the 8th and 9th inning. But John, another save, 9 for 9 for Kenley Jansen. Angels have won 4 in a row. How about that?
Second time this season they've won 4 in a row. Remember, they did that across the White Sox and the Cardinals series to start the year. So, hey, get a little win streak going, and certainly some good things can happen. So, a couple notes here. Like I mentioned, Soler since May 2nd, 160, 276, 180 slugging. Just not great right now. Ohapi caught his fourth caught stealing, I should say, in the bottom of the second. There would have been a couple, I think, closer ones. Like he would have had Langoliers in the first inning, but Neto wasn't able to hold on to the ball. But we'll talk about his defense on tomorrow's show because it's been a factor for Ohapi behind the plate this year, more than it has been in years past. Thanks for making a Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Coming up, we're going to tell you about Angels reliever Shaun Anderson, what he's been working on to be an effective bullpen piece and stay with a dang team for once. We'll get into all of that coming right up.
Money problems are always big problems, and in order to solve the big money problems, Monarch Money is on your side.
Did you say monkey problems?
No, I said money problems.
Oh, money problems. Got it.
If you have monkey problems, I don't know who you call, but if you have money problems, it's time to check out Monarch Money. They're your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Not just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You're going to be able to track all of your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place so you can stop managing your money and start building wealth. Maybe this is what Artie needs to spend some money with the Halos. How about that? Money conversations with your partner or with your favorite team's owner is smoother than ever. You can track shared and personal accounts, set goals, and stay on the same page without all of the stress. This is perfect for the Angels. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use our promo code LOCKEDONMLB, Artie, at monarchmoney.com, and you're going to get 50% off your first year. Always looking for a deal. And that is monarchmoney.com. Again, promo code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get half off your first year.
This is the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Mike, we're going to be talking about Matthew Lugo and his hot start, and how does that compare to Kyren Paris's hot start? Remember, we all celebrated just how great of a start Kyren Paris had to begin the season, hitting .419 with 5 home runs and a 1,514 OPS across his first 12 games. But there were some concerns about the underlying numbers. Often those numbers give you a better understanding of what's happening, especially when a hitter is making contact, or where they're putting the ball, or how they're putting the ball in play. And what happened was that Paris was hitting his pitch and making really good contact. However, once that stopped, he cooled off considerably. Over the next 27 games, he hit 108 with 45 strikeouts in 88 plate appearances. Now, on the other side of things, Matthew Lugo has gotten off to a great start. And we wondered, what do the underlying numbers say about him and how they compare to Paris's hot start? So we're going to compare their numbers entering last night's game. So prior to this Angels game, let's start with Kyren Paris, Mike.
Yeah, his first 26 plate appearances, and we picked 26 plate appearances because entering last night, that's what Matthew Lugo had. So first 26 plate appearances in 2025 for Kyren Paris, was hitting .440, had 5 home runs, 4 stolen bases, an OPS of 1.653, had a hard hit rate of 57.1, a barrel rate of 23.8. Both of those are in the high 90 percentile, 91st percentile for hard hit rate, 97th for barrel rate. His whiff rate was 41.1. That was in the 2nd percentile. That's not good. No. And his chase rate was 30.2%. So that was Kyren Paris's first 36 plate appearances. Matthew Lugo, and he made his debut in May 9th. In his first 26 plate appearances, he has a batting average of .360 with 3 home runs, 6 RBIs, 5 runs scored, a slugging percentage of .880, an on-base percentage of .385, and an OPS of .1265. John, his hard hit rate is 76.5, his barrel rate 29.4, his whiff rate 39.5, and his chase rate 33.3%. His walk rate, nothing. He hasn't walked yet. So here's some comparison numbers, and then I would love your thoughts. Lugo has a harder hit rate, 76% to 57% for Kyren Paris over the first 26 plate appearances, has a better barrel rate, 29 to 23, a better whiff rate, 39 to 41, and a worse chase rate, 33 to 30. So initially, what do these numbers say to you?
They tell me that they're the same person through those first 26 plate appearances. And Mike, the biggest concern here that people have brought up is, all right, we celebrated Kyren Paris. How long until, we don't get to celebrate Matthew Lugo anymore? One of the key factors that I saw looking at StatCast and Baseball Savant was just how much more Matthew Lugo has been pulling the ball in the air versus what Kyren Paris did. And I think it was about a 10% difference. I want to say maybe Kyren Paris was like 21% and Lugo was like 31% pulling the ball in the air. And that's key because you saw what happened to him in last night's game. Mm-hmm. Everything was away. And so it tells me scouting report's already out on him.
Yes.
If he's going to have success, everything needs to be pulled and in the air. And if you're going to pull a ball, it's going to be middle in on the hands. And he did get a couple pitches there and he took a hack at him and one was like way inside.
Yeah.
But that's what he needs to be looking for. The problem with Lugo is that he was just not able to lay off those sliders down and away. And he kept chasing and chasing and chasing. Looked a lot like Kyren Paris. So both of these guys have a happy zone when it comes to how they hit the ball and what they do. Again, very similar numbers here, But the hard hit rate and the barrel rate for Matthew Lugo, that's actually really promising. But it all comes down to, is he going to make contact? Because if he does, he's going to hit that ball really well. He's going to hit it hard. And when you have a barrel, that means that you have the perfect angle, launch angle, and perfect exit velo, like within the scope of what you want it to be, the launch angle and the exit velocity. So he's going to have a lot of success, but he's got to make contact. And right now, the only area where he seems to be having successful contact is if it's in or middle of the plate to where he can pull the ball in the air. And if you think about it, think about his 3 home runs that he's hit so far. They've all been pulled, and they've all, of course, been in the air. And that's been his success so far to this point. I think if anything has to change for Matthew Lugo, it's being able to lay off those pitches away, or at least foul them off.
Yeah.
And if he's got such a good hard hit rate, then he might be one of those guys that, you know what, poke it the other way, the opposite field, and you could hit one down the line and maybe sneak a double that way too. So I think he's definitely got some adjustments to make, because I think major league pitchers are already picking up on what he's able to do. Now, don't get me wrong, JT Ginn was striking everybody out with that slider down and away, and the Angels didn't seem to change their approach in the time that he was up there. But all of that to say, 4 Ks in last night's game, all the result of, Matthew Lugo chasing out of the zone.
Yeah, a couple thoughts on this. Jeff Fletcher had an article where Matthew Lugo said that it's interesting being in major league ballparks versus minor league ballparks because the lights are brighter. He said, I can see better, not just literally, not just figuratively, but literally. He said, I can see better. But then last night they're in a AAA park and he strikes out 4 times. So I wonder if there's something there. Second thought is, it's almost like his approach should be the same as Joe Adell's, in the sense that they're throwing all of the pitches down and away to Joe Adell. Now, Joe's learning to lay off of those things, and he's chasing that fastball strike 1, and that's something that they had talked to Matthew Lugo about. In fact, before last night's game, him being decisive on that first pitch fastball has been something that they've been preaching to him, and being aggressive with it. He's 3 for 5 with 2 of his homers when he swings at the first pitch. And both times he's put the 1-0 pitch in play, he's doubled. But those pitches have been on the inside to middle part of the plate, and he's swung hard at those pitches, and he's had great success. I think after an 0 for 4 night last night with 4 strikeouts, John, the league seems to be figuring him out. So do you have concern for him? Do you think that they need to give him a break? What would you say to him if you were Johnny Washington?
That's the thing. It's like, I was just going to say, man, these are the moments that I wish I was in the front office somehow to communicate to Johnny Washington. Look, all of your guys were chasing that down and away pitch.
Yes.
I'm sure you noticed it last night, but Lugo especially, all of his damage is coming on the inside part of the plate. And these guys are going to try to get him to fish down and away. But Mike, if he can be stoic, right, and lay off those pitches and just be a statue up there, and then the pitcher has to go, gosh dang it, now I got to pitch him something I don't want to. That's the same thing with Joe Adell, right? Now, they're throwing the first pitch fastball because they think they can sneak it in because it's pitch number 1. You don't usually swing at pitch number 1. But what Joe Adell and Matthew Lugo and even Kyren Paris have to do is be able to make that pitcher throw you the pitch that you need in order to have success. And right now for Matthew Lugo, it's getting the middle in pitch in the strike zone from the middle to the inside part of the plate, because that's where his success is. And they're not going to put it there if you keep chasing, if you keep going after the junk balls.
Yeah.
It's not that they're bad sliders. Like, they could be deceptive. They could be fooling you. That could all be a factor, but that's not your pitch anyway. Right. Unless you're ready to hit that one the other way. And that might be the second part of the adjustment. Remember, we talked about yesterday, Taylor Ward, missing his pitch to end the at bat, but then fouling off enough to have that pitch come back into the cycle so that he can do some damage with it. Maybe the same thing is true for Matthew Lugo, where it's like, you know what? You missed your pitch, and now they're going to get you to fish on the outside corner. It's up to you to hit it the other way and be confident that you can do that. And if he does make contact, Mike, I think that he could have some really great results.
The semi-hero this last weekend in that Dodgers series was Shaun Anderson. I say semi-hero. Go ahead.
I just want you to say what you told me about doing this segment on Shaun Anderson before we decided to put it in today's show. I thought it was really funny.
Oh, I've had this story about him for maybe a month or two.
Okay.
and then after he pitched what he did on Sunday, I was like, hey, look, we're going to use that story.
We can finally, it was like there was never a good moment to put it in the show. And so after that performance on Sunday, hey, give some props to Shaun Anderson, right?
Right. Now I say semi-hero because he did pitch himself into a win when he could have just had a save or maybe at least held the game for the Halos, but he did go 2 2/3, only gave up 1 hit, 1 run. It was a big hit. It was a Will Smith 3-run home run, but he was only charged with 1 run. He did strike out 3, and including Shohei Ohtani to win the game. And Anderson was a semi-hero. And so this guy is a journeyman pitcher. He's pitched for the Giants, the Twins, the O's, the Padres, the Rangers, the Marlins, and now he's with the Halos. Johnny began his career as a starter, but then that same season shifted to a reliever, and he's played multiple roles in the bullpen. And Anderson said he prefers to stick with one team, and he wants to be effective for that team. So he's been working hard to prove that he's an effective bullpen guy and somebody that the Halos can count on. And one of the things that he's been doing, John, is he's been working on one pitch that he's been throwing since 2019. That pitch is called a kick changeup. Now, most pitchers have been trying it out recently, but again, Anderson's been throwing it since 2019, and he believes that that's the key to his success, and he's got the pitch where he wants it. John, tell us how the pitch actually works.
Yeah, it's funny because I've been hearing this kick changeup terminology being thrown around in different baseball podcasts and circles and things like that. But here's how the pitch works and what Anderson is doing to perfect it. It starts with Anderson wanting more drop from his changeup. As we all know, the changeup goes downward. It's got that, downward action. Before working on the kick change, his pitches were coming out really flat. So in order to change that, he moved his middle finger to the top of the ball, and he only kept the fingertip on the ball. That way he could use his ring finger to kick the ball off its normal axis, the way that it spins. He said instead of a traditional changeup spinning 3 o'clock sideways, so imagine, kind of the Earth's rotation a little bit, now it's got top spin, and he's got to think about using his ring finger to spin it upward. So instead of, this side-to-side spin, it's more of a top spin, and so it's kind of a backward rotation on the pitch.
Yeah, Anderson said, for me, it was really hard to control in the zone, and I needed something going away from lefties in the zone, and he knew it would be a really good pitch, and he needed to work on it, or else he would be really non-competitive throwing that pitch. John, it was super competitive on Sunday when he came into the game. He threw the kick change 15 times, and he only threw it to left-handed batters, including Shohei Ohtani, and that's the pitch that he struck out on. Of the 15 changeups that he threw, Anderson got the batter to swing at 9 of them. They missed 3, and they only put 2 balls in play.
I misspoke. So it's a forward, it's upspin, so it's forward, which means that it's going to have that downward action on it, rather than I said it was backwards. It's actually moving forward. So that's really interesting.
You've been sick. That we forgive you. Now, according to Anderson, he said he's still learning how to throw the pitch and really throwing all of his pitches. He said, I've got a bunch of pitches and I love the shapes on them. But he said having the guys that we have here, it's been really eye-opening to watch them. He's been watching Kyle Hendricks, Kenley Jansen, and Tyler Anderson throw all of their stuff. And he said, so I'm picking their brains about it. And I'm really learning how to simplify and find my zone to throw my pitches instead of overcomplicating things.
I love that. Pitchers like Anderson, are guys that teams are going to rely on. They come up for a bit, and we've already got some guys down, right? We've lost Ben Joyce, we've sent Ryan Johnson to high A, and so this is one of those guys that they picked up over the offseason. And I remember saying, he's a journeyman, he's a body, he's a guy that you want on your team after everybody else is exhausted or maybe there's some injuries. that's kind of where we're at. And this bullpen looks way different than what it was supposed to be when it started. I mean, who knew Hector Neris was going to be in this bullpen to start the year?
None of us.
Mike, how long, or I should say, how long do you think Anderson will stick with this team? And then where should they be using him out of the pen?
I'll answer the second question first. I think that they need to use him wherever they have a need. We've talked on this show often about how Wash needs to manage game to game and not look to the future, not look for I got to save this arm. I think when it comes to Anderson, they need to use him wherever they need. He could probably be a long reliever if they need him to be, or he could probably be a guy that comes in the 8th inning to shut some things down and be the guy that can kind of save the bullpen. I think as far as longevity, if he's successful, keep him there. There's no reason to move him around if he's getting outs. Now, I know that Robert Stevenson is soon to be coming off the IL. He's been working on getting back. I know that Sam Bachman now is off the IL. So there are 2 really strong arms there, but I think there's a lot of work that they're going to have to do to get right. And so in the meantime, I think Shaun Anderson is a guy that you hang on to. And quite honestly, John, if this team is successful, I'm not making any moves out of the bullpen if they start to figure it out, unless I have to, unless somebody's fallen apart. And if they continue to be successful and they're getting outs and they're looking good in the 7th, 8th, and 9th inning, I'm not messing with that unless it's necessary. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Seems like he's a guy that you can use in low leverage situations to keep you in the game. Kind of the way that Reed Detmers has been used the last couple of appearances where it was 3-1. Detmers comes in, keeps it 3-1, right? And that seems to be his best role, because when he's asked to hold the lead, it just doesn't seem like he's able to do it. And so for Shaun Anderson, he seems like he's able to come in those low leverage situations. But then he finished out the game on Sunday and took on, Shohei Ohtani in the very last at bat. Like he could have done some damage there, and they trusted him with that. So it's really interesting the way that this bullpen has shaped up. Every bullpen has their anchor pieces, right? Like ours were supposed to be Kenley Jansen, Ben Joyce, Ryan Zephyr-John, and then Robert Stevenson eventually. But now you've got 1 or 2 of those anchor pieces, and then you got a bunch of guys that you got to have them, because you don't know who's going to go down with an injury, like Jose Fermin recently did, and you just don't know how things are going to shake out. So it's good to have a good supply of bullpen guys, especially experienced bullpen guys like Strickland and Neris, and now Shaun Anderson.
Hey, thanks for making Locked On Angels your first listen of the day. Now for your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night, every game, every night, all season long. And you can find Game Night on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, be sure you give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Angels and at Super Halo Bros on Twitter and Instagram. Whether you're watching or listening, come on over to today's show, get in the comments section on YouTube. We'd love to hear from you. Mike, what do we have on deck for Wednesday's show?
Well, we know Ohapi's offense is incredible, but let's talk Ohapi's defense, because he hasn't been great, but he's been working on some things. And then let's have a discussion about if that's the position he'll be in as we think about Logan Ohapi for the future. We're going to talk about all of that tomorrow on Locked On Angels.
Are you going to give him the old Napoli treatment? Is that what you're thinking about? We'll get into that conversation tomorrow. Until then, my name is John, and that's my brother Mike.
Mike Napoli. Love that guy. And my name is Mike, and that's my brother John.
Thanks for being here, everybody, and we'll see you back here on Wednesday.
Mike Napoli,
Angel Killer.
my favorite when he was on our team.
Yeah.